There's no, that depends on what it's seen. Okay, so um, hopefully you'll be able to hear me over the AC. Um, Luckily, I am able to do this. Figured out what the problem was with not being able to live stream via this device, is I had it set to the wrong account because it's kind of a shared device, and the other account does not have enough subscribers. So simply just saying that meant that we couldn't live stream. And also, the other person had just kind of started, well, not super late, but kind of late because we were outside a lot and that a late fitness session, and was going to be utilizing this for the music. And it started to, and it was jazz music, and it just started without too much. I mean, we're having a great day without too much, whatever. Was willing, and also willing to, and knows I do sometimes, but prefers that I don't move the computer, even though it's easy enough to rehook it up or whatever. And but let me bring it down, so which is good because the cell phone was being very wonky. So I'm just putting on some lotion if you're wondering why I'm moving my hands like that. And it's another one of those. I kind of want to wait till we get viewers, or at least a viewer. Even one or two can make a great difference in feeling like the video is a success and it's reaching people. I mean, it's always afterwards that too. But yeah. Anywho, so um, I and here's the other thing about this doing this video is I don't have a ton planned to say. So part of me thinks, well, but I don't want people to tune in as I'm sitting here thinking about what to say next. Usually, I don't have too much difficulty, so I don't really usually script. And I'm liable to veer off or lose my place on the script anyway. So, um, um, so I'm gonna wait until at least somebody tunes in. I might not acknowledge because it seems like some people don't really care for that, unless I'm getting the impression wrong as far as that goes. But I'm just gonna use it as a, and they're not here to hear me say it right now. But and I don't think it's a bad thing either. But as a pivot to, or as a launching to doing this, and of course now the cell phone's finally connected. But who knows for how long? That's the thing. And I am pretty tired, but it's only 20 to 10, so definitely not bedtime yet. So, oh wow, that's a big smiley. I don't know though. I mean, and that's the thing. When you watch it back, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just suggesting, what might be kind of the best use for your time, because sometimes these do kind of get a slow start. And I'm just suggesting that, you can skip ahead and see what's happening when you do that, in the video. Um, and whatever you get from it, it's good with me. And I'd love to hear in the comments, how this uh, how this resonates, and yeah, tried to think the title did, and I mean, it's kind of, even if it doesn't say that, but did kind of say what your thoughts or experiences. Um, Now, it is one of those topics though that it kind of um, I don't know if I should do it, because I mean, let me just quickly look at something else before I start, just kind of related to the topic. Um, Okay. Yeah. I mean, still, I never know, but it's still hard to say. But okay, so I'm just gonna, I don't know, I guess get started. I mean, one person that is specifically told about it, yeah, she can do that, and I mentioned it too. Can do that skip ahead thing, but probably just rather I hop right into this. So I almost want to do a quick sound check just to make sure that I'm being able to be heard over the AC. Because just because someone tunes in doesn't mean they're going to tell me that, or stay. Um, so, kind of surprised nobody's here yet. Yeah, good enough for me. So let me just collect my thoughts since nobody's here, expecting me to be rambling. Let me just kind of decide how I want to approach this. And like as long as it's not like a bot or him or rudeness or whatever, I'm usually not too particular about the type of comments. However, I don't know. Maybe I just want to do this just to kind of vent and be heard for what I'm saying and not hear about thoughts or experiences. I don't know. So I'll have to see if I can figure out how to edit that afterwards. But while we're doing this, it's gonna have to be there, I think. So um, and it's really great, even if somebody's not saying something. Although I think it's even nicer, as most YouTube creators would say when they are saying something. But I don't want to. I probably only have about. Well, I don't know. I got to at least start, but I feel like in the dogs upstairs. Yeah, yeah. I feel like I only have maybe about 15, 30 minutes. I want, but yeah, I can cover a lot in that time. I have two meetings tomorrow, so I might not do a video tomorrow. Uh, I decided to put off a couple phone calls today. Um, may or may not have an errand tomorrow, the next day, um, but I'm not gonna say manager because I mean I'm up, so whatever. Um, I think that this is the longest, except okay, here we go. It's briefly in the other window, and yeah. Anyway, so to start off with this topic, what I want to say is, um, I heard an experience, or I don't know how detailed I want to hear about other people's experience in this topic specifically, but I am curious your thoughts. Somebody that I'm fairly close with has been in the hospital, and um, they opened up a little bit about when they first arrived there, and it sounds like it was very stressful. And um, basically, and I say this not trying to sound judgy of people, I promise, but basically, and I mean, also part of it is that I somewhat fit this demographic in some ways. Uh, she apparently, I don't even think she was in a room at this point, but now she is, thankfully, was in a hall in the, it didn't sound like it was the, well, that is a room. Um, she, she said she was moved to a cubicle, which I've never even heard of a cubicle in an emergency room, and then a room. But she started out in a hall, and she had somebody that was mentally ill, and she had somebody that was mentally and physically ill. And this latter person that apparently they were both kind of, it sounded like, restrained to the bed or whatever they were sitting on. The latter person sounds like he was screaming and spitting, and and first, one thought that goes to my head is, what would she have made of that, other than that, being annoyed and not being able to sleep, and that they would probably try to move her pretty quickly. Um, Unfortunately, she's not. I don't want to say that she's a terrible person, and I think I've seen a lot of growth in her as a person lately, but she's not. For strangers, usually, like, she asked about the other owner of this channel. Uh, his sister is unwell right now, and she asked about her, and that somewhat surprised me. Like, she, again, not a bad person, but doesn't really. And she's also very much like, oh, well, it's not my responsibility to help so and so, or not knowing what to do, or blah blah blah. But there's a part of me. I mean, first of all, mental health is very prevalent, of course. I mean, we all have a brain, and we're all living this life, and it can easily cause issues with our mental health, right? So, but the way that she described it, in not a lot of words, just made me feel like, you know, I don't know if that's the right place for that type of person to be, who is to that extreme, and also not the right treatment, in the sense of, I get it from a safety perspective, but I also don't think that they should be restrained to the bed or the chair that they're in, like cuffed. Uh, she even said that the one was, and I don't know if this is how she said it. I don't know if it was just initially or the whole time. I think the latter. Um, we know that hospitals aren't always the best, including emergency rooms, and sometimes you get a real mix, right? And again, and I'm so glad that somebody's been here for about 5 minutes. Don't be shy to put comments. But again, this is said in love and understanding of the issue and the struggles. I don't relate to everybody, as we said, get two viewers at the same time. I don't relate to everybody that has mental illness, but I do relate to mental illness. Um, it made me think, what would be the alternative for this person? I mean, maybe. Oh, and there was another detail about the first person. Actually, they were homeless. I don't know how many homeless people find their way into the hospital unless they're having, like, a. I don't know. Maybe they were having some sort of medical issue too, not just mental health. Because a lot of people would probably think, as about your three viewers, that they should be put into a ward. Then, um, I don't know. I've known two people that I've actually known have been in wards. Well, one was actually the other owner of this channel, someone they're kind of connected to. One was a fairly close friend of mine at one point. Um, and we visited both. I feel like both. I mean, the first one I bused, and it was quite a long bus ride. The second one, we did get a ride, but they were both not super close to where we lived. So, because we live in a pretty big city, so we didn't really, didn't really go see them, much. Possibly just the once. And I don't remember. I don't know. I don't even have a guess as to how long the second person was in one. The first one was probably 2 or 3 weeks, and now he had schizophrenia, but he also no, we're one. Uh, he also was kind of affected negatively. I don't remember a lot of details, but by one of the other people there. Um, I have lucked out, and again, this is, again, said with love. I have lucked out in the sense that, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, on any of this, but I stayed at one place many, many, many years ago for a few days that was still nicer than a ward, but it was not. I mean, it neither would serve meals, and they had a little sitting area, and they had the staff in the center. surrounded by like this, surrounded by windows essentially, and didn't often leave those areas. There was a couple weird experiences that happened there, to be honest, as might be expected. But I also met a couple nice, people that I really, got along with. And we kind of all helped each other as best as we could because the staff really weren't doing it. Um, and it's the same with wards. A lot of times, I mean, they they bring out the trays with the meals. Perhaps they might have an activity, and other than that, you're on your own. And it's not ideal. Um, there is such a thing as counseling with a sliding fee scale in a lot of places, and I'm happy to give advice and support to people as I can. But there is such a thing as that, and or mental health lines and stuff like that. They're not ideal either, though. Like, I called about the situation with this loved one in the hospital before I knew these details, and was trying to decide if I should try and call before a surgery, which has been postponed. And I don't, e- and I don't, I know I hadn't been up for very long, but I knew that the surgery was supposed to be this morning. Um, and I didn't know who else to call. I have mostly acquaintances at this chapter in my life, and not a lot of living or local family. And I didn't know who else. And unfortunately, one of the other places I could have called has somebody that shouts at, or at least in my experience, and I was not being volatile or anything like that. If you're curious, put in the comments if you'd like to hear what this specific example, and I'll keep them anonymous, whether I should or shouldn't. But who likes to, um, or who shouted at his caller, and you know, let's just say not everybody's going to report that because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to necessarily get someone else in trouble. They are just too shy or too anxious to do so. And honestly, when someone has seniority, it doesn't really make much difference. Even if management and the two I'm thinking of are iffy, especially one, but they were going to talk to, some people. They were going to talk to a couple people who were not doing very well with in their job working this kind of thing, um, but not going to get rid of them. So still avoiding calling there. So I called this other place, and they like to ask about the S word, if you know what I mean, near the end. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't call often anymore, but it doesn't matter if you've told them we really don't like you doing that. Gauge the asking better if you may be required, but if you really don't think so, like, don't ask. Um, and she still does. So I hung up on her. Says we don't need to go there. And then I slightly worried they might send somebody to do a check, and like, we're home, and there's two of us home, and the other one's been in the yard a lot today, and the viewer left. Uh, I don't know if that triggered. I mean, I'm thinking of the situation with Bomb Vince, to be honest. But they were there for about 10 minutes, which is the longest watching I've seen one person. Although, for a while, at one point it said three and then went back to one. So I don't know if that was the initial one or what. I'm going to very quickly um, run upstairs because I need to quickly take care of something. Uh, but I don't know. Maybe they'll come back and say something. And if they don't, then that's fine too. I'll be right back. But I don't know if that person was maybe waiting for me to suggest a solution, which I'll be right back. While I'm briefly away, I'll think if I may have one, but I'm not a miracle worker. don't know. Maybe I'll watch some of this, see what I like. And otherwise, it's items and items and. So, okay. So, here at the moment. The dog will quiet down in a moment. He's just looking out the window at the side. This is making me think I want to address something in the realms of paranoia. Anxiety can come into play with that. Schizophrenia can come into play with that if you have it. Like I'm not saying the dog's paranoid. I mean, dogs are just being dogs, right? That actually kind of blends in, but you can still tell it's there. I found this the other day, and I feel like it needs neck support, and it might be better than having a pillow. Make me look like I'm I guess, but well, maybe I can have a little bit. I mean, I am kind of looking. I don't know if I want to have that on or not. And then, yeah, he said it should be very so. Oh, you got down past the gate. Wasn't fully closed, but yeah. This is a rosary. The email, I think this fixed itself. It's weird. I went to my email and suddenly it's back in the YouTube thing. I didn't put it there. I'm just gonna have to get him something because he's gonna be noisy otherwise. I'm gonna put some of these in the fridge. Well, if he tries to remember that much at all, he will receive. This is no restaurant. So I wasn't up there super long, and I didn't really think of a whole lot else to kind of say on this topic. So let me just think, is there anything else I want to say? Like I'm someone who believes that I don't want to get into arguments. That's first of all. First of all, my hope. Sonny, you were given a thing, go to it and don't be noisy. I just scratched myself. Although it was this one, and now it's this one. But that was a twig or something that got that. Someone that feels that jail is sometimes necessary, but often not, I would say. There are a lot of situations or things where people are just lacking guidance. Perhaps for quite a while. And if they would only get that and some support and people more so meeting them where they're at, mind space wise, people like, I guess what I'm saying is essentially, as I wonder where my other draft is that I know I had in this pocket. Is this it? Hope so. What I'm saying is essentially empathy. Again, I don't want this to be misunderstood by some people as to saying, oh well, they had this going on. So basically, it's like forgiveness in a way. Not necessarily saying that it's okay what someone may have done, but looking at why they may have done it. And I think in a lot of cases, answers are very obvious. And then it's what can we do about it? You know, I know the states, I don't want to get hugely political and get into debates and this and that on this channel. It's not what it's really here for in that way. But, you know, I know that things aren't good there um, in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's basically like if they were only like I've heard, and that I should state I've never been into, and I don't really. I again not trying to sound judgmental or whatever, and I know I said what I just said, and this may sound like the opposite, but I'm fine not talking to people that have been in jails. I don't need to hear those stories necessarily. But what I do know is that they do a lot. I've heard that they do uh, a lot of things these days. Um, um, like, well, who was it? Some people may know the name Wendy Williams in entertainment media, even though it's Williams is pretty common and Wendy's somewhat common. And she's been, and I don't know why it says only two symbols with the. Oh, okay, it just went longer with the Wi-Fi. Um, she was a bit wishy-washy on some areas, but she has had some. I think this is where I heard it. She has had some early Alzheimer's, and I'm not sure what else. And she's kind of in an institution right now as well. I saw her in a video talking to somebody through a window, and I don't know where they were, but and she said, and I think this is where I heard it. She said even people who are in jail are allowed to go outside for an hour, and she didn't sound like she was. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna miss this question too. But I don't know if they sometimes have like counseling. I know they've go there before. Um, they have different programs, different groups that I've heard of, and um, so that's a step in a positive direction. I think. I mean, people that have done the worst of crimes, or at least worst of crimes, you know, maybe don't deserve as much, but they're. I mean, and a lot of people make stupid mistakes. It's true, and should know better. But no, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at is I just feel like the system, whether it's mental health treatment or, I mean, I don't feel like mental health should necessarily be spoken of in connection to like people doing crimes, but it can be. Um, Mental health, mental justice, and this topic I don't actually talk about all that much on here. And one other one I can't think of at the moment that is almost I'm thinking of. Um, you know, yeah. And so I'm doing what I can do in kind of sharing my feelings, and maybe they'll have an impact for some. But I mean, ultimately, I'd love to open up a drop-in center, and there are some in the city. Um, some of them are very specific to a certain age range, um, or neighborhood. I don't know. And I know, some people wouldn't want that in the neighborhood if it's a fairly nice one. But, um, just for music programs, social activities, drop-in counseling, uh, just betterment of self and each other. I know that there are different types of businesses and agencies and that do this, but it's there's still a lot of people struggling, and if we can make there be more options and more appealing and some ways maybe more welcoming, and better staff, like better hiring processes. Like one place I'm thinking about, it was kind of briefly mentioned earlier. It's great that they hire by lived experience, and it's great that they sometimes hire clients. But I would say, I'm trying to think. Well, I'm thinking of three. One's been there forever. One's not been was not there very long at all, and the other one not super long either. But she works in a somewhat similar agency now. And it's kind of like the I just feel like sometimes the filtering process for hiring, in a way, the more people that they're given jobs, the more people they're given jobs, and perhaps the more that can help. But like this example, I'm thinking of one branch of it only has one person working at a time. That also doesn't seem very adequate. Um, and sometimes it's funding issues, and of course, like I say, I know the government in the states, but sometimes it's funding issues or lack of funding. However, I'd like a lot more people, especially that work in these areas, to consider that there's still a lot that can be done on little to no funding, and I think sometimes place people get into the mentality of we have to have the funding to do something, and you know I'm not, you know yes, in some ways and sometimes, but also maybe not, you know and yeah. I don't have the means to open up a place and start a drop-in center financially. I probably wouldn't feel I could do it by myself necessarily. I mean, it's a big thing to do. um so yeah. Not sure if he's hoping that this will be back upstairs by 10:30. I mean, it was really nice how we had somebody here for about 10 or 15 minutes. I find that a lot of people's attention span seems to be shorter than that. But I was obviously saying things worth hearing, and I appreciate that. Now, if we get someone to be here and comment a bit, or do the same, but it's even better in the comment for the most part. What else? Is there something else I want to say on this topic? And mental health. If you have any ideas as to mental health topics for this channel, again, nobody's watching at the moment, but for for future, I should probably update the description of this channel. That actually, is there a way to make it? Yeah, there is, about this channel. Yeah, I should update that because it's evolved a little bit since its inception. I'll try and keep some of that stuff. I might have to do it in an evening now at this point, but I'll try and keep some of that stuff. But yeah, mental health, healing, and music. If I could put those three in, I mean that covers you know a lot. I don't want this to get too much longer in case she. Yeah. Um. So yeah, I think I've kind of already said what I would suggest as alternatives for people struggling with mental health, as opposed to hospitalization in a ward or institution. But I understand some people will need more than that. And I do feel a lot of people that work in these fields, by the way, are a little bit tainted by all that they see and deal with. And some people lose their humanity, including humanity for others. I mean, I'm thinking of one person at an agency I keep kind of alluding to who mostly hasn't done that. She did do a couple things. I don't think she hangs around on YouTube, but for all I know, she's unwell right now and sick, and maybe couldn't afford cable or doesn't have a TV right now, so she's using YouTube, and so I don't know. But ultimately, even though there was a couple things about her, that a couple situations, I still would like to call her a lovely person and a lovely woman and very motherly. And I know I'm not the only one that felt that. So when I have not felt like I've had my mother in my life, she's been there. And there's other female staff there, but there's just something. Maybe it's because, not that my mother ever really did that I can recall. Maybe it's because she uses words like sweetie and honey. I, you know, uh, that the others don't necessarily, and some might not even think that it's right, but I and others didn't seem to mind. Um, and I'm not necessarily saying that people that work in this area need to do that, and I can understand, regardless of what your orientation is, how it may be awkward. And even if you worked in a place that served the LGBT community, I mean, you know, some people might not be bothered. Some people would if you did that. Um, I don't want to say it's unprofessional, but it's I can say it would bother some people probably to use those kind of words. But one other thing that this particular person did, I don't know if I should do the swim to the stars meditation. But one, there's a clue if you're watching or if you see this. But one other thing that this person did was was essentially, and part of me feels this was when she got a level of familiarity and comfortability with somebody, but part of me feels like sometimes not. Just sometimes in general. And she worked with homeless people, and then people not as much in that mental health, social work, that kind of stuff. Um, she would always, really talk highly about people and just kind of like, you know, oh, you're fabulous, you're wonderful, you're a beautiful human being, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes it did seem like a bit much. And other times it would kind of be like, well, I wish more people saw it, I mean, not everybody's you, essentially. I'm thinking of three things that kind of iffy about this person, but you know, yeah, I mean, and of course, though, when somebody has, really bad mental health struggles to the point where they, yeah, I mean, it's assessing, if they truly are a danger or not, and like really seeing the person for what they're showing you, not for what you think they might show you, or that kind of thing. And if you, um, it's true, you could do that with somebody, and that could send them on an ego trip. My feelings about ego is you can have a healthy one, and that comes in the form of confidence. At some point, though, you got, well, I don't know. Part of me feels at some point you got to be a little less confident if you're struggling to get ahead in life. Not because people feel like you're overly confident or cocky. You just do. You naturally lose some of your confidence. Um, but it's kind of like, um, at some point you gotta look at reality a little bit, maybe, and well, you do, I think. And this is something else that I might talk about in future videos, mostly in the sense of goals. When you realize that you might have to change your life goals and um, your path, etc. I'm typing this, but actually, I don't have chat. Well, the live chat available to show afterwards. General, sure. Well, I've been rolling for 40 minutes. There was at one point, kind of near the middle there, or about 15 minutes ago, where there was three at one time, and like I say, one stayed for a while. And it's been really quiet since they left. Since you've been gone, or other songs like that. um, I'm really, really hoping that if I go for 5 or 10 minutes more, there'll be you know likes and nice comments, and I won't want to wrap up, but I'm gonna have to because got to get on with the evening. Uh, but and whether any of this should be in either of my appointments tomorrow, I don't know. But I mean, or at least intend to, and hopefully do. I mean, I'm looking at items. I don't have to worry about this loved one in the hospital. Well, I don't think I do. I know they can move people around, and still sometimes you still might not get a great roommate, and it all depends just on the combination of people, because even though I have my challenges and this and that, like I try to be a understanding and empathetic type of person in that. But there are still certain types of people. If I was in a hospital room, I wouldn't necessarily want to share the room. Um, and we had somebody there briefly. I don't. I mean, I don't think it was bad necessarily for me to say that because I think that we all could feel that. Because the truth of the matter is nobody likes everybody. Not everybody's meant to gel, you know. And then you just kind of look on and find those that you are meant to. Right? So I don't think it was that out in left field to say it, but okay. I don't know if I should try and make this just a full hour. Um, um, Trying to think, how might I want to wrap this up? I'm not sure. Hmm. I think I've gotten across some of what I've wanted to get across, though, and hopefully it's been heard for how I meant for it to come across. Um, I guess I would just also add. I mean, I think this is probably actually obvious. Well, I don't know. Yeah, it might be. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say. Unless we have people commenting um, either into this video or with suggestions for the next one. And, you know, um, yeah, I'm really available fairly often. videos but not entirely, obviously. But as far as like to the topic of mental health, and kind of launching some conversation ideas, other than what I've said, I mean, like I say, I could have gotten a bit more specific about some of the stories that I alluded to. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know if I need to do so tonight. But other than that, I'm gonna wrap this up with a meditation that comes to mind, and I don't remember it greatly because I haven't heard it for a while. So keep that in mind. And yes, if there's any mental health topics you'd like me to cover, let me know. If there's any music you'd like me to cover, um, might even have an accompaniment person with me, and the person left. Uh, so you know, and I mean, you can only try to give the people what they might want to, or say that you're willing to try and do so. If they don't want to tell you what they want, then you just have to try and deliver the best that you can, and not not put too much focus on otherwise. But basically, yeah, it's too bad that Yodni's not able to watch the video because they're not helping her do so. Um, I decide whether I'm going to share any of these with my mother. But may you be well, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you find the positivities in your struggles. Um, and yeah, wasn't necessarily the most meditative, but it is a mantra that I think is good. I don't know if I stated for anybody that's hearing up till this point. I mean, if I've made some helpful suggestions, if I've uh, helped you to feel good about some circumstances you might be going through, whatever, or better, or things that you can maybe to suggest to your helpers and supports if you have them. If you don't, like I say, you can find it here. Then that's great. Um, and I've done it. I've done a worthy job then in that. I am otherwise unemployed, and the new setting on YouTube, it seems like you can't not monetize it for some reason. I don't know if that's they're gonna make profit, but like you have to select one thing and then you select the other thing, but it won't let you do all the steps to posting a video unless you monetize it from what it looks like. So if you feel you got some monetary value from this, yeah, help us pay our bills and stay afloat. Appreciate it. um, I think I am gonna wrap this up and keep it under an hour though. It's yeah, gonna be soon bedtime, and yeah, don't want to go to bed with a sore throat, and to get in bed, I like to try and stay in bed. Listen, and yeah, tomorrow I have my two meetings. I'm not sure what to think about them. I'll be talking about Mark, or it might postpone it at least till after the group said that. Talk about. Um, but yeah, I think I'm going to wrap this up now because I'm at a loss for words, man. With the knowing that somebody watched for 15 minutes, I must have been doing something right or in a value within that 15 minutes, or they just liked what they saw, liked my voice, whatever it is. Um, you know, so that feels pretty good. And maybe they were shy. I mean, but well, they were because they didn't say anything. They also didn't like, but they stayed. So I'm confused. I don't think it was him. No. So Anywho, it's always nice when these are a bit more engaging, but sometimes they aren't going to be so, or not during anyway. So, hope you have a good evening, day, and although it can be hard, remember the things that help you be happy. If they're not harming anybody, or not, you know, not breaking any laws, um, remember the things that bring you happiness and comfort, peace and joy, and do those things. And take care.